Welcome and good morning to all of you in the room here, and of course, those of you watching us online to our S&D group press conference with our group president, Iratxe García Perez, to whom I will hand over in a minute. We are happy to be back from Strasbourg. So, Iratxe, the floor is yours.
Gracias y buenos.
Thank you, and good morning to everybody. Thank you for coming. To a certain extent, this shows that we're getting ready for the new normality in our work. Obviously, we're happy to be here in Strasbourg, hence our presence here. And this shows that the situation regarding the pandemic has improved. However, our group would have liked to be here in better circumstances without the restrictions that are currently still in force, imposed by the health authorities. And obviously, we're complying with those. However, they do condition our work and our presence. As I was saying, I think it's a good signal that we can continue with our work, and we hope that in July the situation will be better, representing a return to normality with all guarantees, as I said. This plenary in June has a lot of important issues for our political family. Shortly, we'll be seeing the start of a debate I'll be participating in on the recovery fund. The European Parliament, through a joint resolution, is asking the European Commission to carry out the implementation work, guaranteeing that member states use this recovery plan along the lines established by the regulation. But as you'll understand, for our group, S&D, the social dimension is a priority, and we've managed to get the social issue included in that resolution. We've seen how the heads of state met in Porto to issue a joint resolution on the European social pillar, and we believe that it is fundamental. Obviously, we have clear priorities as Europe in the field of the fight against climate change, climate issues, environmental issues. But the transformation of our economic and social model that is so necessary, it has to be more sustainable, and it has to be done taking into account an adjustment of the transition. And those sectors that most need it can't pay the price. Nobody can be left behind. That means that we need to take advantage of the recovery fund to incorporate that social dimension. And of course, subsequent debates in the near future on the European semester, in which the social conditions also need to be a priority. So we're going to be working along those lines with the debate and the resolution, which will be voted on this week. Also, in the debate tomorrow on ELCO, we're going to be focusing on those measures adopted by heads of state and which we need to implement, the European Commission and the European Parliament, with that COVID certificate, which is being debated. And as of the 1st of July, it's going to be a reality. As I was saying, that guarantees that return to normality, but it can't be the only instrument. We need to see how we can adopt common coordination measures in the face of the pandemic. And also along those lines, I would like to tell you, and I'm going to do this in the debate tomorrow as well, the European policy over this year has really been conditioned by COVID. About a year ago, I started talking about the need to create a research committee, and a number of groups did. We left our position clear. It wasn't time for a research committee. It was time to deal with the pandemic and support the Commission as much as we could in order to help citizens to resolve the situation. Now, 1 year later, I think we are ready to learn the lessons of this year and prevent situations happening in the future. Therefore, our group is going to be supporting the creation of a special committee in order to learn and better prepare for the future. I think it's time now to put this initiative on the table. And as I said, a special committee to give us a more holistic vision. We want to invite all the specialist sectors, all the researchers, the medical sector, the economic sector as well, all those sectors affected by this pandemic, in order to assess how Europe acted and how Europe can learn and be prepared for the future. There are also many other important debates, also in the international sphere. And here I would like to mention a huge absence on the agenda, and that's the situation regarding Colombia. Our group wanted to debate this and come up with a resolution. The right and the liberals in the European Parliament prevented us from doing that because they understood that there were other more pressing priorities to be debated at the time. But we think that the situation of Colombia, with more than 50 deaths in revolts in which there were citizens in the streets, really deserved a debate and a resolution from the European Parliament. But the right in the Parliament is not allowing this sort of debate regarding foreign policy. This selective position of the debate of the right regarding human rights. The right is only defending human rights in certain cases and not in others. And that is what has prevented us from having this debate this week. And in conclusion, obviously, there are lots of other issues that are going to be dealt with in the plenary, and if you have any questions or queries, I'd be happy to answer. But I'd like to conclude by saying that we'll be back here in 10 days. In 10 days, we'll have the first plenary session of the Future for Europe conference, and I truly hope that this mechanism will help us to be able to open up a debate among institutions, citizens, social partners, as well, on the changes that we need in the European project. And we think it's extremely important to have a perspective as a political family. And before the start of the plenary, we're going to be having a political caucus meeting with the representatives of the European Parliament, national parliaments, the Committee of the Regions, everybody involved in our political family, to be able to coordinate and establish priorities relating to the objectives of the conference to deal with the issues. That's what I wanted to tell you. Now I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Iratxe, Laura, please, if you can introduce yourself. Merci.
Sí, hola, buenos días.
Good morning. I'd like to hear a little bit more about this research committee that you mentioned. I wanted to know if it's going to be a subcommittee or a special one-year committee. You said that your group is going to be supporting the creation of that. Could you give us a few more details on that, please?
Okay,
Okay, I'll answer that question. Laura, it's not a research committee as such. I want that to be clear. What we think is that we need a specialist committee. Obviously, it will be a temporary committee. Normally, such committees work for a year, but obviously we can extend that time period. It's going to be a provisional specialist committee dealing with the matter. We'll see if other groups support that. We've spoken informally with other groups, but in any case, we think it's important. And that is why tomorrow in the plenary, I'm going to be talking about that in the debate, because the European Commission is also working on a kind of document on the lessons learned. And I think that the European Parliament has a lot to say in that regard. And the best way of doing that is through a specialist committee.
We have other questions. Yes, please go ahead.
Buenos días, soy María Caruda.
Good morning. I'd like to ask you, in relation to this committee, what would you like to know? What do you want to find out about the work of the European Commission during the year, or do you want to extend the investigation? And then on Morocco and minors, I'd like to know what you think about that, please. Thank you. Microphone for the speaker, please. Microphone, please. Yes, this committee, first of all, it needs to evaluate how the European Union as a whole acted in response to the crisis in order to better improve the mechanisms that we have in order to respond to future pandemics, for example. My view is, and we have thought within the group about this, and we've spoken about it in other areas, is that at the start of the pandemic, there was a very individual national response through the national governments. And then we became aware of the need for Europe to coordinate and be able to strengthen European mechanisms. The pandemic has taught us a very important lesson, I think. Together, we are stronger and we can be better prepared to act. Therefore, I think we need to look at how we acted in order to be able to learn. We need to know what we did well and what we didn't do well. We need to recognize that some things were done well, some things could have been done better. About asking for explanations or criticizing, no, that's not the idea. What we want to do is better understand what happened in order to respond in the future from a health point of view, from a research point of view, from the point of view of how we responded. For example, the restrictions regarding citizen movement and the Schengen area. Also from the point of view of the health response. What we did with the vaccine strategy, how we responded with the recovery plan. I think we need to have a comprehensive vision. I don't want to be critical. I think we need to understand what happened. We need to learn. And as to Morocco, obviously, this is a very important debate for us. Today, negotiations among the groups are going to be starting to come up with a common resolution to convey our concern regarding human rights, the abuse of minors, rather, and international legality, because I think this European Parliament's response needs to be clear, it needs to be intransigent. Morocco is a neighbor, it's a strategic partner, and I think we really do need to have good relations, but also we need mutual respect. That is fundamental. What happened in Ceuta wasn't a bilateral problem between two member states, between Morocco and Spain. No, it was an issue that has affected the relationship between Morocco and the European Union, and therefore the European Parliament is going to be coming up with this resolution in the debate.
Do we have other questions in the room? I think that there are no questions online, unless, okay. Further questions in the room? If that is not the case, thanks a lot, Iratxe, and wishing you all a good week. Merci beaucoup, muchas gracias.